This morning on the huddle, we are continuing in our series on how to have dynamic guests on your live stream. 2 weeks ago, we started with the process. How do you begin reaching out to someone? Last week, we talked about once you reach out to them, what's the steps in putting the live stream together? Now, today, we're going to talk about it's time to go live with your guests right now here on the huddle. So do me a favor, grab yourself a cup of coffee and join me and let's huddle this morning. Praise the Lord, everyone. Welcome to the huddle. I'm your host, Walter Strong. If you're new here, I want you to help be able to broaden your reach, your impact, and income through online video. This morning, we have another dynamic guest on the huddle. You say, who's the guest? It's you, the community. It's me and you as the guest this morning. We're talking about, that's right, how to have dynamic guests on your live stream. And so if you're joining me on the chat this morning on YouTube, let me know where you're watching me from, because already the captain is already in the chat from Team Live all the way from London. Mr. Ash Bolin in the house. Good morning, sir. Good morning. I hope the weather is sunny and hot and enjoyable, as it is about 80 degrees here in New York. So we are excited this morning for a nice day of sunny weather and also having a great live stream with you here on YouTube on the huddle. Also, if you're checking this out on the replay, if you are a part of Team Replay, do me a favor, give me a hashtag Team Replay and let me know in the comment section where you're watching me from, because you are truly making a difference. When this live stream goes off the air and it gets into suggested and it gets into the homepage, we're definitely seeing the results of people saying this is something we definitely have to be able to get before viewers. So hashtag Team Replay in the house this morning. So without further ado, let's get started. Get my streamy deck fired up. Let's get started with this morning's live stream. How to have dynamic guests on your live stream. If you're a person who is a podcaster, if you are a person who does live streams, if you are a person who does in-person interviews, your goal as a person who has a platform, you want to be able to bring dynamic guests on your show. Not so much so people can say how good your show is and how great your show is, but you're doing it for the purpose and the benefit of adding value to your audience. You're doing it for the benefit and the purpose so that you can be able to make a difference in your viewers' life. And so we want to get into this morning as in what we're talking about. And as we get started, we got some other people joining us on Team Live, like Sammy, the superstar, in the house. Good morning, sir. And then I got my man Spoke Creative joining us this morning. Good morning, gentlemen. As you are joining us, let us know in the chat where you're watching us from as you're joining us on Team Live. So tip number one, as we get into this, before we get into the tips, let's do a little quick review. So last week we talked about being able to reach out the right way. When you want to reach out and bring someone onto your live stream, onto your podcast, onto your show platform that you have and that you're sharing through either YouTube or you're sharing through Facebook or some other online platform, how are you reaching out to them? Are you reaching out to them in a professional and with proper etiquette to say, hey, look, I have a great platform, a great show that is aired every week, and there's some consistency there, and we've been able to bring on past guests in the past, such as A, B, and C, maybe Don Lemon, maybe maybe Joe Biden, maybe Sean Cannell, maybe Nick Nimmin, Brian G. Johnson, whatever your platform or your podcast is, you have a track record of bringing on guests, and then you can share with them, the topics, the titles, and the video idea, content ideas that you want them to be a part of. So it's important to reach out to them the right way. Don't reach out to them and just you find them on social media for the first time and you connect with them on Facebook and you want to be friends with them, and you only been friends with them for a day and already you're hitting them in the instant messenger chat saying, "Hey, come on to my show," and you're spamming them, you're blitzing them with requests, just like maybe 1,000 other people are doing in a very unprofessional way. And so we talked about when you reach out to bring on a dynamic guest, reach out the right way. Not only do you want to reach out the right way, if you have the opportunity to get to know them through having a discovery call, you want to do a discovery call so that they can get to know you and know more about your YouTube channel, your platform, your content that you are bringing and putting out. And it gives you an opportunity to get to know them, to get to know what maybe some of the things and ideas that they want to bring to your channel and to your live stream or podcast that will add value. So use the opportunity through a discovery call. Use the opportunity after you've done the discovery call, gather the information and begin to do your prep work. Begin to work on the title, begin to work on the topic, begin to work on the thumbnail, begin to work on the run of show notes, keeping the guest a part of the process. So that way, when it's time to bring them on, they're able to go live with you and be able to add value. And then as you are doing your prep work, you schedule the live stream. And then when the guest gets into the in front of the camera and they go live with you, you've set the expectations, you've done the lighting, you've done the audio, you checked the internet. Now it's time to say, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, it's time for the huddle. So if you do those things and you got the guest with you, you set yourself up for a dynamic guest. So that's our quick review. So now it's time to talk about how to have a dynamic guest that comes on that brings value to your live stream and to your viewers. Notice I said to your viewers, not so that you can get more subscribers, not that you can be able to get more views. Notice you're not putting this all on yourself. You have the audience in mind. You have the audience in mind because you want to be able to make a difference in someone's life. We always ask the question, when you go live on YouTube, you upload a video. Let's talk to our content creators on YouTube for a moment. Why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? So that you can stroke your ego? Or you have a passion and a purpose in making a difference in your life? And so if you're using live streams to do interviews, you're bringing on individuals such as Benji Travis from Video Influencers. You're bringing on individuals such as Jeff Barks from Story Greenlight. You're bringing on individuals like JP Hightech from Perfect Zone Production. You're bringing on individuals like Charles Jackson II. Just using a couple of previous guests that we've brought on in the past, and we've brought on Ash Boland, we've brought on Steve Worthy. Charles Jackson to me is the Bryant Gumbel of live stream. He's the Brian Gumbel of live stream, so that when we brought him on in February and we brought on JP in February to talk about Black excellence on YouTube, we wanted to be able to encourage other content creators of color, particularly men, to understand that, hey, playing basketball is good. Hey, being able to be in music and entertainment is good, but video production, being on YouTube, being a live stream producer provides other great opportunities. So we use the month of February to do that and bringing on dynamic guests. So these are just a few that we've brought on. And so when you bring them on, you're putting yourself in a position so that once they come on, you set the tone of your live stream. Notice you're not depending on the guest. You're saying, I'm, as the host, am setting the tone for this live stream to be dynamic. I'm setting the tone so that when the guest comes on, you've read the bio, or if you read a short snippet of the bio, you bring them on, you set the tone, you set the table for them to come on and to be introduced to your guests. However, if you don't set the tone and you don't do all the necessary things to get the live stream out the gate, unfortunately, it's and don't get me wrong, sometimes you can start out slow and finish strong. But if you don't get out the gate strong, you don't get out the gate having a dynamic hook to be able to capture the viewers that are scrolling and they see your live stream on YouTube, you want that hook to grab them. I'm very conscious of that every time I be able to go on to make sure that I provide a hook that's going to grab the viewer, to grab the audience to say, oh, got to get my popcorn, got to get my cup of coffee, got to get my bagel, and be able to watch the huddle. And so you want to have a hook. Not only that you want to have a hook, you want to be able to be yourself. I'll say that again. Be yourself. Be yourself, and don't try to be like other great content creators like Sammy the Superstar. Don't try to be like Ash Bolin. Don't try to be like Spoke Creator. Be yourself. Guys, if those of you who are in the chat who are enjoying this, hey, do me a favor. Hashtag be yourself in the chat for me, guys. Hashtag be yourself. Those of you who will be watching the replay, team replay, hashtag be yourself. Because if you're being yourself, you're setting the tone. And not only if you're going to be yourself, you're being authentic. People are looking for people who are being real. Real recognizes real. People recognize authentic people. And when you're authentic, people say, this is something I want to watch. This is a live stream I want to listen to, even if they're not watching it. Maybe they have it on their mobile phone and they're working and listening to your live stream on YouTube. I do that every Friday when Ash does his live stream on YouTube. I'm constantly working on from that Friday morning from 8:30 to 5. So for that 8 a.m. To 9 a.m. that he's on, I have his live stream on and I'm listening to him. Why? Because he has a great hook. Why? Because he's being himself. Why? It's because he's being authentic. Why? It's because he's setting the tone. And unfortunately, too many people are trying to be like someone else. Too many people have fallen trapped to the comparison trap. And as a result, they're comparing themselves to someone else, and they don't know how to set the tone to have a dynamic guest join them on their live stream and add value to their viewers. And so if you're someone who wants to be able to take your live stream to the next level, you got to set the tone. Hashtag in the chat, be yourself. Be yourself. Tip number 2, now after you've set the tone, you have to have a prepared guest. Now, let me bring clarification to this. When the guest already comes on, they are already prepared to be able to share what they want to be able to share with your viewers, and that what you've discussed in the discovery call. But when you've done everything on your part, you've maybe shared a copy of the Runner Show notes. You've had an opportunity to have the discovery call. You've had the opportunity to keep them in the process of bringing them on the show. Maybe getting their bio to them. Maybe getting a photo of them so you can have the thumbnail and everything. You've done everything so that when they are prepared, they can come on and they can share with your viewers. But as a host, if you don't do your prep work, as a host, you don't do the things so that your live stream can be able to be something that's going to add value to your viewers, you're going to put your guests or guests, if you're having a panel of guests joining you, you're going to put them in a situation where they can't be able to do their very best and do what you've asked them to do. If you ask them to come on the show and they haven't heard anything from you from the time you sent out the email and they accepted your invite, but you share nothing with them, and then you bring them on the day of the show and they know the topic, but they know none of the tips or the ideas you want to share. They know nothing about the questions you want to ask them. And you're putting them in the situation that's very uncomfortable where they don't know if you're going to be asking them things out of left field, what they may not be able to answer. You don't have a prepared guest. And so, as those of us who do live stream, those of us who do podcasts, you want your guests prepared. You want your guests prepared. Most importantly, you want to be prepared. You want to be prepared. Be prepared even if you're nervous. Be prepared if you got a little something going in your tummy, and that little something that's turning in your tummy is a little called nervousness and fear. Be prepared though. And guess what? Once you go live, all the butterflies fly all away. And it's like, boom, you're ready to do what you need to do. Tip number 3. Okay, boom. Before we get into tip number 3, hey, if you're getting great value out of this live stream discussion on how to bring dynamic guests to your live stream, those of you who are watching us in the chat, do me a favor, smash the like button, click the thumbs up. This is letting YouTube know that this is some great content that they need to share in real time with someone else. Share it on your favorite live stream platform, and let's get this content out to those who need to watch it. So that way it can encourage those of us who are doing live streams, those of us who are doing podcasts, those of us who have a desire to do a live stream but have not gotten the courage to hit go live, those of us who need to do a podcast. Let me put my hand up. And we need to be able to go ahead and go live. Do me a favor, share this live stream. Tip number 3. So you've set the tone, you have a prepared guest. Now your guest is on. Allow your guests to share from their experience. Too many times as content creators and live stream hosts and podcast hosts, we bring them on and we want to try to make it about ourselves. Let that breathe for a moment. We let the show be about ourselves instead of us highlighting the guests and letting them share from their experience. Because you brought them on for the topic. For example, if I bring Sammy onto the show and I want to have him to share about being able to do live streams, and in such in the area and the expertise that he has. But if I bring him on and I'm talking about all the live stream tips, I'm talking about all the live stream strategies and everything, and I only let him just kind of like join in the conversation, I'm not putting him in a position where he can be dynamic so he can add value to the viewers. I'm not putting the guest in the position. Also, you want them to share from their experience and not to be sharing in terms of information or content that's not relevant to the topic and the subject matter that you have them on. Because let's face it, sometimes if you've been interviewed by someone and the host allows the show to go into a direction that's kind of off topic, then you can end up following them, and next thing you know, you kind of take them along down that rabbit hole, and the host kind of realizes, hey, we need to kind of reset the table. We need to kind of get back on to the topic of the show. And don't get me wrong, sometimes you do have to pivot in your live streams, in your podcast, which we'll get into tip number 5 on pivoting, but share from your experience. Don't share from a book of knowledge of something that you read last night and you haven't even done yourself. Share from your experience. Allow your guests to share from their experiences personally, to share from their experience from what got them into YouTube or getting them into online creation, that helped them to discover their passion, that helped them to be able to discover untapped potential that they didn't know that was there, in being able to do graphics and overlays and transitions, and they never thought they had the potential to do those things, but once they got into it, they begin to share, and it's going to add value to your viewers. And so let them share from their experience. Tip number 4, after you did tip number 4, tip number 3, you go to tip number 4. Allow them to be willing to be engaged with your audience, especially if they're familiar with a live stream platform like StreamYard. They see the comments of your those in the chat that are commenting, and if a question is asked that you as a host have missed, maybe because you're doing the host, you're doing the production of the live stream, and you miss a question in the chat, and they see it and they want to bring it up, let them bring it up. Allow them to engage with your viewers, because yes, you brought the guest on for the show to help be able to be a part of a great piece of content, but you brought them on for the viewers. If you didn't bring them on for the viewers, if you didn't bring them on to be able to add value to someone because you saw something that they were doing, then what's the true motive here? Are you bringing guests on for the purpose of name dropping? See, when I mention individuals like Benji Travis and Jeff Bartz and JP High Tech and Ash Bolin and Steve Worthy, I'm not mentioning their names to say about who I'm connected with and who I got the hookup with and who I've been fortunate to have on these shows to say me. I'm doing it for the purpose because I said part of my goals, and we go all the way back to our first live stream when we started this series. When you bring a guest on, bring them on with the goals in mind of your channel. The goals and pillars of my channel is helping someone broaden their reach, their impact, and income through online video. And so me bringing these individuals on helps to fulfill that mission statement, helps to fulfill that vision of what I have for YouTube. And so with that clarity, when the guest joins, they understand that you're not bringing them on for the purpose of trying to be exposed to their audience. Because unfortunately, too many people want to collaborate with people because of who they know from a name drop standpoint, or because of said prospective audience that they have. And so doing a live stream is about adding value. I see already in the chat, Tech Troublemaker is in the house. Good morning, sir. Those of you who are watching us, joining us on the chat, let us know where you're watching us from, as we are sharing this content this morning to encourage you to have dynamic guests. And I've watched individuals like Tech Troublemaker. I've watched individuals like Ash, and I've had the privilege to watch some of Sammy Superstar's content in bringing on dynamic guests. And they've been able to do this and be able to add value to their own viewers and to grow their channel and to share the content that they're doing on YouTube in these content creation streets. And so you want to be around other fellow content creators who are putting into practice some of these same tips so that your live stream can grow. You say, well, Walter, right now, I don't really have an audience right now. Let me take this off for a minute. Let me set this. You say, Walter, I don't even have an audience right now. Let me take that out. Let me speak to you. Well, you know what? I started with not having an audience too. That, I didn't have someone in the chat like a Tech Troublemaker that I could do that to, that I could say all the way from London. I didn't have Ash or Tech Troublemaker. I started with 0, just like you. But I had a passion. I have a purpose in why I want to do this. And so don't get discouraged about you saying, hey, I may not be able to have any viewers watching my live streams. Oh, I may have some trolls in that come into the chat and say some disrespectful things. Don't pay attention to the trolls. Don't pay attention to the haters. Those of you in the chat, do me a favor, hashtag don't pay attention to the trolls. Don't pay attention to the trolls. Don't pay attention to the haters. I remember I had my experience with my first troll a couple of weeks ago, and I didn't really catch on what he was doing on in the chat Because typically what a troll will do, they'll say something in with one word in the chat, but what the person was, they took the approach of spelling out the word, and they made, a couple of words, and basically ultimately it was the N word that they were saying to me and my guests. And I said, "Oh, really?" I said, "You know what? It's all good. We're going to continue to move on." And I basically, set some things up to block them so they won't be returning. But even if you have a troll or a hater in the chat, don't let that discourage you. You just got a badge of honor that your YouTube is starting to get your live stream shown, and they're just trying to do their job to get your content in front of the right audience. So don't let not having any viewers watching your live stream at first to discourage you. Don't let getting hateful people saying hateful comments in your live stream, and you're trying to build up the confidence to be able to do a live stream. Don't let that discourage you. And if you're not at a point where you can have an Ash Bowen on your show or a tech troublemaker on your show, hey, if you got a wife, you got a daughter, you got a brother, you got a sister, bring a family member on, bring a good friend on, and just have a good conversation with one another. And if you want to be able to do interviews and have live stream discussions, start with family, start with friends, start somewhere and cut your teeth. And as you cut your teeth, and you both are willing to be engaged with the audience, the live stream will go. So I thought I just needed to share that for someone who's going to watch the replay, to share that with someone who is here in the chat on Team Live. And so don't get discouraged. I love the fact that I have some great individuals in the community, and they can all be able to share their own personal experience. They can share their own personal testimony about how they've kind of gone through these same things. Do me a favor, if you're getting great value out of what we're talking about this morning, smash the like button, punch the like button, and share this on your favorite social media channel. Tip number, we did number 3, sharing your live stream. Let me get this over to tip number 4. Come on. Tip number 4. We talked about engaging with your audience. Tip number 5. Here we go. Tip number 5. You got to be willing to pivot. There are times you did everything in reaching out to the guests, doing all your prep work for the guests, and you go live, but the show starts to go in a different flow from the run of show notes, but you're seeing the response in the chat. You're seeing the likes going up on YouTube. You're seeing the comments being engaged in the comments through the replay. Your audience is speaking, but you as a content creator are so structured. You're like, I got to do it this way. There comes a time and a place where you got to pivot. Now, I'm going to put myself on blast, fix my chair here. And part of my YouTube strategy is collaborations and being able to work with other content creators, which helps me to fulfill my mission statement for my viewers and my audience, and helping them to broaden their reach and impact through online video. So some in my audience of my viewers who watch my content may be interested in podcasting. So I reach out to Ash. Some of them may be interested into tech. So I reach out to Tech Troublemaker when I got my Stream Deck. So there's that reach out. But when I first started this series, I got an interesting comment from a good friend of mine here in the chat. And he said to me, we did a Zoom call with one another because we've built a relationship. And he says, Walt, I really enjoy the different guests. I may not be saying it the way that he said it, but he said to me, I really enjoy the different guests you bring it on. But you need to understand that when I watch you go live at 11 a.m., I don't just watch you on my computer. I don't just watch you on my phone. I put you on my television. I get myself something to drink and to eat. Sometimes my wife will sit down and watch you too, and we enjoy you for 45 minutes to an hour. We enjoy you. It's not the guest, it's you. And what he was saying to me was, when you did this live stream series by yourself without no guests, it's like, wow, why have you been holding back? Why have you been depending on your guests like a crutch and holding back all this other great material and content that you can do by yourself? He said, because the truth of the matter is, you can add value to your viewers and you don't have to be dependent upon having guests. And when he said that, I had to understand he was saying it from a place because he cared about me as a content creator. He cared about me being successful and being on YouTube and adding value to others. And what he was saying to me was, Walter, you got to pivot. You got to pivot. And sometimes, even when we're doing live streams with our guests and we bring on individuals, there are times you have to pivot with that guest. If the guest doesn't, what happens if the guest doesn't show up? What happens if a real situation happens where they end up having a death in their family or a close friend that dies and they were scheduled to come on at 11 o'clock in the morning and you get that text at 10:45, not 8 o'clock in the morning, not 9 o'clock in the morning, where you could have had some time to call someone, but they call you at 10:45. And when they text you at 10:45 and they say they can't make it, what do you do? Well, what you do is you pivot. You pivot. You pivot with having with other materials that you have, and you be able to say, hey, look, I'm showing up for the viewer. I'm being consistent for the viewer. I'm being consistent. I'm going to show up every Saturday morning at 11 a.m. And as a result, I said, hey, look, maybe it is time to pivot. And, I focus so much on bringing guests on every week because I want to be able to add value. But I said, okay, we need to pivot. So maybe now going forward, we only bring one guest on a week, and the other 3 weeks is me and you, the community. And these first 3 weeks has shown that, this is the direction that we need to take the huddle. Because the word huddle, for those of you who may be watching me in the chat, listening to me in the chat for the first time, hashtag Team Live, if you're part of Team Live, is the huddle comes from the concept of football. And other sports do it, like, football for us soccer people. So I don't want to disrespect, or a basketball. I don't really see baseball doing huddles too much, but it comes from the concept of the NFL football, and not the huddle that you see them doing play by play before they snap the ball. I'm talking about before the game ever even starts, before they even run out on the field. 53 men, defense, offense, special team, they all gather together. They begin to huddle up, and they begin to remind one another of what the purpose is or why they're there to play the game. And it's to win. They remind themselves of the potential, the talent, and the ability that they have, and why they need to win their own individual battles in position that they're playing so that the team can win. They encourage one another that if they are the visiting team in the home team stadium, despite how much the boos are ringing down and how much people say that they dislike them and they don't have a chance, they remind themselves that they can depend on each other. All 53 players can depend on one another. And normally there's a quarterback, normally there's a middle linebacker who's in the middle of them, and they're leading the charge of that huddle. And so that's where the huddle came from, in terms of bringing other content creators so that we can come together and encourage one another of the different talents and abilities that we have. So when it's time to pivot, you pivot. Tech Troublemaker, when it's time to pivot, I'm there as one of the players in the huddle to let you know that it's time to pivot. When the individual called me and said, I want to have a Zoom call with you, and began to tell me that, hey, look, it's good that you have guests, but you have the talent and the ability to win your own individual matchup as a content creator, as a live stream host, to be able to do live streams by yourself. And we encourage one another. And so that way, when the huddle is broken, rather if I'm doing the huddle here at 11 a.m., Ash is doing, podcast live streams on Friday morning, or you Tech Troublemaker are doing your live stream on Tuesday night at 9 a.m. Ken is doing his live streams. Ken, the content coach, every Monday and Friday, we are encouraging one another. And that's what it's all about. And so when the time comes for you to pivot, if Ash pulls you to the side, Tech Troublemaker, and says it's time to pivot, you pivot. Don't take it personal. Don't be offended. Don't get offended. Don't be like, well, hey, I'm good. I don't, and unfortunately, people, you start to try to build relationships with individuals, and maybe they're not there. It's cool. That's cool. But you continue to huddle up with one another and encourage one another. And when it's time to pivot, why are you pivoting? So that you can have dynamic guests on your live stream. Sometimes the guest is the community, and the community can get great value out of you as the host showing up and you being able to provide great content for them. Hey, if you're getting great value out of this discussion that we're talking about on this live stream, I need you to do me a favor, smash the like button. Smash the like button, share this on your favorite social media channel. And if you haven't had an opportunity to subscribe to this channel, I want to encourage you to subscribe so that we can help you broaden your reach, your impact, and income through online video. So as a summary, we've talked about setting the tone. Setting the tone. Be yourself. Be authentic. We've talked about having your guests prepared, putting them in a position where they can be prepared. Tip number 3, we talked about allowing them to share from their experience, and not only to share from their experience, allowing them to be engaged with the show, engage with your audience, and so that you can be able to provide some great piece of content that after you go live, YouTube will say, hey, look, we got to get this into suggested. We got to get this on other people's homepage. Because if this is not a passion project, if this is not just a passion hobby, but this is something where you want to do as a full-time content creator, well, we got to grow. We got to let the YouTube algorithm know, as people have smashed the like button, they've shared, they need to get this in front of other people. And so if it's time to pivot, you pivot. And so if you do these things, you're going to have a dynamic live stream that adds value to your viewers and your audience and subscribers. This is running a little slow, but that's okay. Questions. I would be remiss if I don't put that out there. But if any questions, if there's in an area or of a challenge for you in this area of having guests, we'll definitely take a few questions. Any comments, any thoughts, certainly put it in the chat, and we will definitely acknowledge. Definitely. Tech Troublemaker says it's time to pivot. It's time to pivot. Yes, it is time to pivot. And pivoting is good. Change is good because it helps you to have a growth mindset. I believe it helps you to have a growth mindset when you pivot. But see, if you don't have a growth mindset, you're not going to want to change. You're not going to want to move forward, and you get stuck. Fortunately, too many content creators, we can fall into the trap of being stuck instead of moving forward. in our YouTube journey. So we have to be able to pivot. We need to recognize when it's time to pivot on our channel. And one of the good indicators that I found as a content creator that has helped me to understand when it's time to pivot is my YouTube analytics. I got to get back to that one day a month that I would set for myself, and I would get into my YouTube analytics. I would open up a Google Doc, and I would just jot down some information and then compare it to the information that I did 30 days ago. So it kind of helps me to see what videos are performing well, what live streams are performing well. And looking at that data, and if I see like this series on having dynamic, great guests on your live streams, it's 90 days from now, I can look at the analytics and say, ooh, okay, part one did good, but not as good. Part two really got knocked out the box. I had a great response on it. Part three really just took it off. And so looking at your YouTube analytics will help you to be able to do that. Okay, I think I got a question here. I think we got a question about researching your guests. Ash says, how do you research topics for solo and guest interviews? Well, one of the ways that I try to do research for solo shows and for guest interviews, I start with brainstorming some video ideas and live stream ideas that I have myself personally, and I put them on paper. Then I take those video ideas, and I'll go to TubeBuddy, which, let me give a statement. TubeBuddy is not sponsored by this live stream, but it is a tool that I use, and I begin to do some keyword research with TubeBuddy and look at putting in some different topics and seeing how it's scoring. So TubeBuddy is one of the ways that I do that. A second way that I do that is through the Google search bar and the YouTube search bar, and I try to put in different video topic and ideas and see what they come up with. Sometimes, because I will, not that I'm trying to steal from another content creator, but sometimes I'll look at another fellow content creator's page, such as yours, Ash, because you focus a lot on podcasting, and so maybe there's some similarities on a topic that you're talking about. 5 mistakes that podcasters need to be aware of and not to make when they're first starting out. And so because I can see how we're pivoting a lot on encouraging people on live streams, I could maybe take that same topic and video idea and focus it on live stream. Tech Troublemaker may say, well, he may have a video idea and topic on good budgeting tech that you need to buy, such as a good microphone, webcam, to do your first YouTube video. I can be able to take that same topic and idea and say, okay, starting out and doing your live stream, what's a good microphone to use? So those are just some of the ways that I come up with video topics and ideas through research. So hopefully I was able to answer that question. Again, if you have any comments, any questions that you want to put in the chat, those of you who are part of Team Live, who are watching us, let us know in the chat, and we'll do our best to answer it. But this is fundamentals. These are the fundamentals that we all have to be reminded of as content creators, and being reminded of the fundamentals just sharpens our skills, sharpening one another's skills by depending and leaning on one another. And that's what builds up our great community. And so if there are no other chat comments or no other questions, Question of the day I have for you is, how are you doing your research for your to be able to produce a great live stream show for your viewers? Drop down in the comment section if you're watching this on the replay, and let us know in the comment section, how are you doing your research to be able to have a great live stream for your viewers. And if you're in the chat part of Team Live, let us know in the chat so we can learn from one another. And again, if you've gotten great value out of this live stream, I want to encourage you to smash the like button, share this on your favorite social media channel. And if you haven't had an opportunity yet to subscribe to the channel. These gentlemen who are in the chat, especially those of you who will watch Team Replay every Tuesday night, Tech Troublemaker, I believe it's 9 p.m. Correct me in the chat if I'm wrong. We want you to check out Tech Troublemaker, Mr. Ash Bolin. If you're interested in podcasting, not just trying to just do video podcasting, but you want to get into audio podcasting, then you want to check out my man Ash Bolin and Spoken Creative. Let me know anything of importance that is coming up this week for you that we need to share, because certainly we want to give some love and some encouragement to you guys, so making sure that our viewers are checking out your content. Well, that's it for this live stream. Next week, we're going to continue in this topic, but next week, I think we're going to approach it from the standpoint where we've shared so much about how to bring on guests for your live stream. We want to go with next week's topic. How can you be a great guest for someone's live stream? How can you be a great guest for someone else's live stream? How do you come to the table and bring value to someone else? Now, we've talked about guests coming on your show. What happens when you get the email? What happens when you get the text message that they want to bring you on? How do you prepare to be a dynamic guest for someone's live stream and audience? We're going to talk about that and more next week on The Huddle. So, hey, we always close out saying, many are the plans in a person's heart, but it is the Lord's purpose that will prevail in your life. Make a quality decision today and let God's purpose prevail in your life. Add value to not just for yourself, but add value to others. We'll talk to you next week. God bless.